Republic Act No. 10361. An act instituting policies for the protection and welfare of domestic workers. Article 2. Rights and privileges. Section 5. Standard of treatment. The employer or any member of the household shall not subject a domestic worker or Kasambahay to any kind of abuse nor inflict any form of physical violence or harassment or any act tending to degrade the dignity of a domestic worker. Section 6. Board, lodging and medical attendance. The employer shall provide for the basic necessities of the domestic worker to include at least 3 adequate meals a day and humane sleeping arrangements that ensure safety. The employer shall provide appropriate rest and assistance to the domestic worker in case of illnesses and injuries sustained during service without loss of benefits. In no instance shall the employer withdraw or hold in abeyance the provision of these basic necessities as punishment or disciplinary action to the domestic worker. Section 7. Guarantee of privacy. Respect for the privacy of the domestic worker shall be guaranteed at all times and shall extend to all forms of communication and personal effects. This guarantee equally recognizes that the domestic worker is obliged to render satisfactory service at all times. Section 8. Access to outside communication. The employer shall grant the domestic worker access to outside communication during free time, provided that in case of emergency, access to communication shall be granted even during work time. Should the domestic worker make use of the employer's telephone or other communication facilities, the costs shall be borne by the domestic worker, unless such charges are waived by the employer. Section 9. Right to education and training. The employer shall afford the domestic worker the opportunity to finish basic education and may allow access to alternative learning systems and, as far as practicable, higher education or technical and vocational training. The employer shall adjust the work schedule of the domestic worker to allow such access to education or training without hampering the services required by the employer. Section 10. Prohibition against privileged information. All communication and information pertaining to the employer or members of the household shall be treated as privileged and confidential, and shall not be publicly disclosed by the domestic worker during and after employment. Such privileged information shall be inadmissible in evidence except when the suit involves the employer or any member of the household in a crime against persons, property, personal liberty and security, and chastity,